think we'll get into it later, but I'm very curious to see when this all kind of starts to collapse and how quickly it happens. It'll be kind of interesting to watch. But what else we got? AMD's up almost 5%. This thing's also been moving. I mean, every single semi name, I feel like every single day is up. Nvidia's up another 3.5%. This thing I think is up 100% year to date. Nvidia. And it's only been 3 months, not even 2 months into the year. So wild action.
Nvidia among the semis recently has been like 2008 LeBron on the Cavs, man. It's just team on its back pulling everybody up. It's been fucking wild.
Yeah, if we look at SMH, this thing's up 1.5%. And this is an ETF, you know, and this thing is just absolutely ripping. Everything else is basically up today. You know, tech is all up. Most names are up. On the downside, we got Costco at earnings down 5%. And then Broadcom down, which is probably the only like semi name, I guess, that's down today. Although it's not really carrying or moving the SMH lower. ARM is down 1%, another semi name lower, and then yeah, I mean everything else is pretty much green. Some names are down a little bit, but most of the market is pretty green today. So it's been crazy to watch. I don't know if you've been trading any of these semi names. Have you been active in those or?
Man, I am just such a bear. I really hate I hate trading the bull market like this. So the past 2-ish months, I've just kind of been a scalp merchant. That's been the move. Just large ETFs. I'm not really touching much of anything. I feel like in a bear market, I'm just always more confident. I feel like stocks are more readily go down than they go up, even though that is obviously contrary to what's been happening recently. But man, if you can time a dump, I think time in the bottom falling out of something is usually more lucrative for me than trying to time something getting a big pop. So yeah, no, I got plenty of semis in my long-term portfolio. I loved AMD for a long time. I've been loading AMD shares since like 2018. Then I got some Nvidia popping for me in there as well. Actually, I've been thinking about trimming the long term recently because I'm up like, man, 14.5% year to date. It's starting to be like, man, this is not this. I should not be, beating index funds like this. I need to get out of.
I should not be beating. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's. I think I agree with you. I think it's easier for me to trade, be a bear than it is to be a bull. Especially now, it's so hard to, like when we look at like a day like today, where the S&Ps are up another 0.5%, and we've had this 4 or 5 month rally. It's hard to like. Even like when you're somewhere in here back in like December, it's hard to get long here because you're just kind of your like main conviction is to go short because we've been up, for so long.
Yeah. And that's sort of what's been killing me is it's just like I've just been waiting and waiting. I'm like, man, this pullback has to come sometime for the health of the market, and when it does, I'm gonna love it. It's just never coming. There's a girl that I go to school with, and she's been asking me if I can help her set up a Roth IRA, and I'm like, sure, I'll do it. But I've been telling her since about December, I'm like, the market is OE. You don't want to open this right now. Yeah. You're going to go down 4% right away, and then be mad at me like I fucked up. You got to hold off. But then it's just been pumping this whole time, and I'm like, well, damn, you would have been up 3 or 4% already if we had just done this earlier. So yeah, it's been funny, and it's a run. I mean, I don't want to say unlike one I've ever seen before, but in my trading career from roughly 2019 to present, this is one of the runs that stands out most strongly in my mind without any sort of even just some weeks of pullback. It has just been a couple red days and then right back to the green every time.
Straight up. Yeah, I mean, I think I've been short literally since November, just managing short positions that are not working. And I'll get like even like a day like we had on was it Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. Where we were down like quite a bit, and I, usually I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is the day where we're gonna get some follow through the next day, and then we just turn around and rip higher. It's hard, and I'm afraid to put on like long positions, so I'm just either taking off shorts or just managing them, and rolling them out. But it has not been pretty for me this year, and we're just trying to find just one 3 to 5% correction is all I need.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's
then I'll go long.
Yeah, that's all I'm hoping for as well. I'm not thinking we're gonna break into some kind of recession after this or anything
Right.
crazy. Yeah, just a little 3% move would make me feel fine.
Yes.
But it's just, I don't know. Every month I say that there's no way we make it through the month, and then we keep on doing it. It feels very OE, and I'm scared.
Exactly.
Think,
Exactly.
make some calls and fix all this shit. That would do it.
Seriously.
But
Yeah, it's been difficult. I think, I mean, me and Michael usually talk, on the show a lot about, what happens when the Fed starts to cut rates, and how that kind of affects the equity markets. And we always see that when the Fed actually starts to cut, that the market, usually people think it's a good thing when Fed starts to cut rates. But if you really think about it, if the Fed is cutting rates, that means they're kind of lowering their growth expectations. So, which should mean that the market goes down. That's usually what happens. So, yeah, we got the VIX down 2.5%. And this thing, I always look at this thing. I drew this little trend line on the VIX, which has been in an uptrend, interestingly enough. Usually, we see it kind of trade sideways, which is kind of done, but it's had like a little uptrend. So I'm wondering if that means anything to you. To me, it seems like if it stays in an uptrend, maybe we get a bigger pullback sooner rather than later. I don't know how you view that.
I would be inclined to agree, I suppose. I don't know. I just feel like the pullbacks are just so impossible to read right now. But yeah, I mean that would be my lean as well. If we see VIX start to move its way up, that to me would probably indicate we see the move sooner rather than later. I don't know about how much I feel about that would affect the severity of the correction that we get,
Right.
but I do think timing wise, yeah, VIX trending up would mean probably sooner rather than later.
Right.
But I don't know. That could just be wishful thinking from me as well, because I want it to happen sooner.
Exactly.
I'm sick of this shit.
We got a Reddit IPO March 20th. Wondering if you're going to indulge in that.
What did you say?
We got a Reddit IPO March 20th. I'm wondering if you're going to indulge in acquiring some Reddit shares on there.
I have a strict no IPOs policy myself.
Oh.
However, from just a company standpoint, I could see that as being something fine to hold, if even just for the meme. But I don't know. I think Reddit has some upside. I think Reddit has a very firm and underrated place in the internet community. I don't ever sit and just browse Reddit myself, but I use Reddit to find solutions to things multiple times a week. I have a Reddit account. I'm certainly part of the user base. I love the format of things. However, I don't know where the market leaves room for them to really grow or improve on the product that they have. Social media is an oversaturated space. They've done really well of finding their niche, but I don't know how you broaden outside of that niche, especially now when it seems like Reddit has, slowly come to have negative associations with it, both in terms of, the user base and the actual content that's available on the site. I don't know how you, really turn this into more growth and providing more shareholder value. But I'm interested to see what they can do with more capital. And yeah, I'll probably pick up a few shares for the long term just to see what happens.
Yeah, I think they're actually doing it, in a better way than other IPOs in the past year or two, because we've seen a lot of IPOs that have been kind of overvalued on, at the beginning. And it looks like they brought their valuation down from like 15 billion to 10 billion. And I think they're going public at like a $6 billion valuation, which is like almost half of, or more than half of what they originally priced it at. So maybe that's a signal that they're kind of being a little conservative in what they're outvaluing it at for maybe a potential, buy up into the IPO. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But we saw like IPOs like ARM, which initially did not go well. They opened around like 70 and came down to, the mid 40s. Now we're seeing a pump, obviously, because of the semi names in their earnings report back in February. Instacart was another one, that still hasn't reached their IPO price. And this is kind of what happens when you overvalue a company at the start. So maybe it's a good thing that Reddit is kind of aware of the previous IPOs, and maybe they're taking a more conservative approach for their stock not to tumble like the other ones.
Yeah, I certainly think that it's a smart move. I think that oftentimes companies, internally, when you're only ever thinking about your company, I think they get the conception that IPOs always just rip straight up and everybody is going to be so excited about this and the valuation is going to seem good and maybe even get a little inflated after the IPO. And don't ever actually consider the public or the retail perception of their company. I think Instacart is a prime example of that. And yeah, I do think that you make a good point with Reddit. I also think that Reddit is factoring in that their own user base may do something to just pump their valuation up to 10 million straight off rip, or sorry, 10 billion straight off rip. So yeah, I think they're doing a good job of leaving a lot of room there. And I think that one of the biggest mistakes that you can make as a company when you IPO is doing what Instacart has done to this point and IPOing at a price that you will not reach again for a year. It's just, it's bad for the brand. You're not going to attract retail investors that way. Institutions aren't really going to want to touch too much Reddit. I mean, certainly not just load up on too much Reddit. There's positions to be had on it. But yeah, all to say, I think, under promise, over deliver should be the MO with IPOs, because if your valuation